This is Black Market Leadership, the underground resource for disruptors and status quo breakers.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Black Market Leadership, the underground resource for disruptors and status quo breakers. And I am very excited because I have a gentleman here who our paths have crossed several times. We actually work in the same co-working spot, Galvanize, which, by the way, is the coolest place in Phoenix, really in Arizona, I think. And we also met, I think it was a year ago, Matt. It was at Venture Devil's Day at ASU.
Yep.
So Matt here he's the head, really the founder of Seedscout. So before I'm not going to go into it. I'm not going to explain your business, but I'm really fascinated with investors. I've worked with companies with a lot of VC support, and you're doing something very, very unique. And first of all, Matt Sherman, welcome to the show. And what is Seedscout?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Very excited to be on. And yeah, I mean, Seedscout is building, over the long term, a new professional network where it's really easy to connect with people who you're trying to meet. We're starting with founders and investors. I mean, our roots go back to before Seedscout was even a thing. I was just manually connecting my founder network to investors and kind of linked people up, tried to make some magic happen. And I realized that that's, a pretty important part of life is introductions and transferring that trust. So I productized it slightly through Seedscout. And over the last couple of years, I've been making, at this point, over 1,000 introductions. And then as of recent, we've decided to branch out a little bit to help actually founders meet job seekers, service providers, and mentors. So we're starting to expand a little bit to actually look a little more like LinkedIn than like an angel list.
Gotcha. Okay, so when you say, so you're working with founders, and is there a niche? For instance, are you connected to private equity, angel investors, venture capitalists, or all of them?
It'd be angel investors and small venture capitalists. Pretty much I would call them emerging managers, angel investors, and then I do have a pretty good network of like established venture capitalists, but they invest a little later stage than we really work with at Seedscout.
So okay, so I've seen you all over LinkedIn, and what you're doing is really fascinating because you're bringing, like I think you said, this ecosystem, and really you're connecting all these people to potential money, to potential capital.
Mm-hmm.
Before Seedscout even started, how difficult would it be to find someone to sponsor, someone to provide you capital? I mean, was it really that difficult, or I don't know?
Very easy to find them. They're on Crunchbase, they're on Listicles, they're on PitchBook. Borderline impossible to get any attention from them. I mean, these people are slammed with deal flow, all over the place, and generally they prefer warm intros over cold reach outs. So this is changing, over the last few years. But when you're a first time founder, you go onto the website. I'll use First Round as an example, because I remember, when I first started my last company, it was 2017, and on their website they're like, we'll cut a check first, like we'll cut a check, when you just have an idea, like reach out, and you never know what'll happen. And that was one of the first VCs I reached out to. Of course, I never heard back, but it's just like there's like knowing that a VC exists and then having access to them. Two totally separate things. And like Seedscout is really innovating in this access world, what I actually call the access economy. And this is I would say kind of counterintuitive. No one's really doing it like we are, but like we're trying to just build a access transfer company in a scalable way, allowing investors to transfer their access to founders and vice versa. Wow.
Okay, so I'm curious then, who can be a part of Seedscout? Is there certain criteria that you have to meet? Because ultimately you're introducing founders to potential capital and capital to founders. I guess you're not taking everyone just off the street and say, hey, I got an idea, I want to be a part of your program.
We will take anyone off the street if they become a paying customer. We found that charging anything is a great filter. And, there's a lot of organizations out there that are application only, and they select, they like by the hand of God, they're like, oh, like I know who is worthy of my program, and I know who is not worthy. And the whole thing is just a hoax. Like no one knows who's worthy or not. Who am I to decide, he's worthy, but she's not, she's worthy, he's not, right? So for me, my mindset is like, if you become a paying customer, you become a pro member, you can join Seedscout, you can get the intro concierge, you can get the events in our suites and clubs, and that's it. So yeah, we don't have to pick you. You can just pick yourself.
Oh, I love it. No, I think you're totally right. Just having people pay shows that, first of all, that they're serious. I love that. So who makes introductions then? Can they personally contact someone in the site, or again, is there any kind of gate, any kind of guard who has to, say, yeah, you can do this, or no?
Yeah, so it's all on the intro side, it's all concierge based. So they don't actually do anything. They just go about their day. They don't even think about Seedscout. Then every so often they get an intro in their account, and that happens because Benny and I, Benny's my one and only employee. We're triggering introductions on the back end. So it's kind of like a little bit of a service, but we've built it in a way that's like very scalable. It's pretty neat, to be honest. With that said, we do have a type of, I guess, program that we do where, we have a suite here in Phoenix. So in the Phoenix Suns Arena, we have a 14-person suite. So we're able to invite pro members to this suite where they can meet each other. And that's like an informal way where they're able to connect, learn from each other, and network, where we wouldn't really facilitate it ourselves.
Oh, that's exciting. That is exciting. So before I go into, I want to go to your background, specifically how you started this and what led you to this. But what's the differentiator? What really makes Seedscout, stand apart from other similar companies?
Yeah, well, so there's a lot of different types of companies that could be compared to Seedscout. I'll give you like a few examples. Like, you look at like On Deck or Launch House. And these companies are trying to go vertical in the startup world. You know this because they started a fund. They're very focused on building the virtual and the next Silicon Valley. And like, I don't think they have any interest in, building their platform for like, politicians or plumbers or whatever, right? So we're different in that we're trying to go horizontal. We're not trying to go vertical over the long tail. In addition, I mean, when you look at companies like Lunch Club or LinkedIn, I think these are actually like too horizontal, too broad, where you sign up and it's just this ocean. And then I would say the last thing that differentiates us is most companies, excluding Lunch Club, they've kind of figured out what we figured out, which is cool to know that we're not crazy here. But most other companies focus a lot on like content, right? Like user generated content, a news feed, messages, a Slack community. And I just think this is so 2015. Like the future is like introductions, like we already have the content, we already have the knowledge. We just don't have the access to the people that we need to like do the job. And I used to explain Seedscout like we're trying to build like Google for people, to get like a search engine for people, but people like didn't really get it. So I don't really talk about it like that. But I mean, if it ends up getting really big, it's pretty much Google for people.
Well, if you mentioned talking about getting big, I'm looking at your website and you have Mr. Paul Allen, the founder of Ancestry.com. And for the audience, it says, quote, "I predict Seedscout is going to be a huge impact in the next few years. Like AngelList, his concept will blossom and Seedscout will become a household name, at least in the world of investors and startups." How did you get this? How did you get this endorsement, this testimonial?
Twitter. He follows me on Twitter, and I mean I'm pretty good on Twitter. I have about 11,000 followers, and I share truths that most people may think about but aren't willing to share. And I have nothing to lose. I have no major VCs on my board. I come from Arizona, not Silicon Valley, so I don't have any reputational blows that can do really anything to me. I actually I'm in a perfect position to quite literally disrupt, the fabric of Silicon Valley, because I quite literally have nothing to lose and everything. It's not just I have nothing to lose, but I have like everything to gain. And And like, I don't give a, I don't care about my reputation in those circles because, I got people in Nigeria, got people in London, I got people in Phoenix, New York, the middle of the country, all over the world that are rooting for me. Like I'll be okay if Silicon Valley like doesn't like me. It's okay.
It's funny you mentioned about Silicon Valley not liking you. I have an experience years ago. I had a client. I was very proud. He took me out to Menlo Park, and we met two VCs. And the first VC, and the reason was I've been doing this particular type of business, and he wanted to see what they thought. So we sat down, and the first question I asked was, and my client sitting across from me. And I said, this is my idea. What do you think? And this VC just ripped it. Oh, blah, blah, just ripped it apart. And so we walked out and he's like, next time, let's do it this way. How would you approach this? So we went to the second VC and said, you know what? You're so successful. How would you? And boy,
right.
It turned, they're like, And they gave some really, really good advice, but it really is about, I think sometimes placating them. You're the big boys in the park.
Yeah. Well, it depends on how much leverage you have, right? Like, I mean, Seedscout, we have 2 employees, I can lower my salary to 0 if needed, live on credit cards for a sec, so like very low burn. So like, I mean, I can, have an opinion on VCs and make that public that, might hurt my chances of raising, but increases brand loyalty. That's good. But like, I mean, my perception on what you just said is like, I actually have come to the realization that VCs are there's 2 types of VCs. The first type is VCs that understand that they're professional money movers, and be those that don't understand that they're professional money movers, and those that are professional money that realize that all they do is move money. That's literally their job. Are the ones I want to talk to. The issue is that there's very few of them. Most of them, most VCs think they're like the hero of the story. They're like founders of their own firm, which is true, right? Which is true. But I've come to this like realization that like most VCs are not that smart in things not related to money moving. Like these are very smart people, right? This is like they're capitalists. They move money, things like that. But like I actually think I know more about venture capital than 80% of VCs because they're working in the system. I'm working on the system, and it's just like it's taking me like years to develop this, but I just think that I could say I know more about venture capital than even a tier 1 GP at Greylock, and most people will be like, "You're full of it." I'm like, "Well, we'll see what the markets say in 10 years when we're reading the IPO bell on LTSE."
I love it. Okay, so let's go.
Also, real quick, another thing too, like they don't really want to believe that like if someone's going to be smarter than them, they don't want to believe it's an Arizona State grad coming from Phoenix, Arizona, with completely no ties to tech. There's a narrative, that Silicon Valley protects, and they want to make sure it continues. And I'm a complete, I guess, Jeff Lewis would call it like a narrative violation. And I just think they like don't really know what to do about it. But it's their problem. It's not my problem.
Wow, I had never heard that narrative violation. You don't have the pedigree. I get it. That's amazing. Never heard of that. That's really cool. What led you? Okay, so we got Seedscout. First of all, what led you into this type of work? Because let me back up for the audience. The reason I'm asking this is I've met people before, and then they say, there are some people who are just serial entrepreneurs, and they just will make business after business after business. In my world, and in my world, I don't understand that because I have my own brand. I do my own thing, and I can't imagine just creating something and leaving it. Like I love it. This is me. I'm my own child, professionally speaking. But you're in such a unique business that what brought you to that? I mean, were you in high school like, you know what? I want to work with investors.
No, so about I don't know, like 3.5 years ago at this point, I got my like 6th or 7th projection from Y Combinator, and I was just kind of like sick of it. I wasn't, applying.
Y Combinator. I'm sorry to interrupt you. What is, for the audience, what is Y Combinator?
It is a startup accelerator that has funded companies that you likely have heard of, like Stripe, Airbnb, Reddit, Dropbox. They're a startup accelerator, very sought after. They started in 2006. It's now 2022. I started applying in 2014. From 2014 to like, I don't know, 2018, I got rejected for every single batch. I just kind of was like sick of it. So I started this podcast called Forward Thinking Founders, where I wanted to interview founders before they got big. But to be honest, like if you go back to the podcast, like the first 30 guests, like 20 of them are YC alum. I just wanted to get into the network. So I just started this podcast. I interview a bunch of YC alum, and it worked like a charm, right? But I decided that I liked interviewing early stage founders. So I kept doing it. And over the next, year or so, I built a reputation of like getting to founders really, really, really early that eventually, become very successful. For example, I think like my 5th interview was Deal when he was a pre-seed stage company. He's now, I think that company's worth $5 billion. There's Air Garage, which you might have heard of. They're the Phoenix base. There's Catch. There's On Deck. There's hundreds of companies that I interviewed that ended up doing really good. So you think this is like a good thing to like break into VC with, right? Like you have this podcast, you have this network. Not really, right? So like just because of my background, I applied for many different firms. They all said no. There was one who shall remain nameless, who in an interview, there was like one question, about VC. I was like, hey, Matt, what's one company you would bet on? This is 2019. I said Substack, and I gave them my reasons. They said, well, we don't agree. I'm like, okay. And then like that was kind of the call. And since then, Substack has like 10x their valuation, and I don't know where that guy is. So it's just like, it's just a little telling. So then I decided, in maybe September of 2020, so this is in the pandemic, to apply to some scout programs. If I can't get a VC position, at least I can become a scout. And I, was rejected from all those scout programs too. And I'm just like, this is, I don't know if I can I cuss on that?
Yeah, totally.
Like, this is like, it's fucking ridiculous. Like the fact that like I've done what I've done, I've met who I've met, and I can't get a scout position. Like, is this a joke? Like seriously, I mean, like if you look at my RSS feed, it's like it's incredible that I couldn't get a scout position. So I got my last scout rejection on October 9th, 2020, which was on my birthday. So on October 14th, I incorporated Seedscout for the sole purpose of figuring out what the hell is wrong with Silicon Valley. And here we're still doing it, but we're making money, we're making impact, we're connecting lots of people. But the core root is there's something deeply, deeply wrong with that ecosystem. Something's gone wrong, and we're kind of like figuring it out and then gonna fix it.
I love it. I love it, man. I remember this years ago, seeing you early in the mornings and galvanizing. You, man, every time we see Matt Sherman, that dude he is on mission. You are focused.
I've had 3 companies in my 8 years of startups, and I'm all in until it just flames out. My last company, I was all in for like 3 years. This one, we're coming up on 2.5 years, but I think this will be this might be the one. We'll see.
Oh, I'm so excited for you. Okay,
you.
So I'm curious, what is working? I mean, I know you gave me some you have some great stories there. You had some really good learning lessons in terms of what it takes to get an investor, to get capital for a startup. What is a lesson that you've learned that's really surprised you, or has anything really surprised you?
It's not about what you can do, it's about what you can prove. So if I'm a great investment, let's say objectively, and this is not realistic because this isn't how the world works, but let's just say, for example's sake, let's say Seedscout is a good investment, and we know we have a time machine. We go out 10 years and we've made billions of dollars. Good investment. It doesn't matter if we're a good investment if we can't prove to a VC that we're a good investment. For example, I can't just because I think I'm a great founder doesn't mean I'm a great founder. I have to prove, right, that I'm a great founder. We have to prove that we're in a good sector, things like that. So I think that's the biggest thing that I've learned is no one cares if you're making 20 grand a month. I'm in my last company. This is a huge lesson. We're making 24 grand a month, no one cares, it doesn't matter. Can you prove that you can make, 24 million, a year or a month, can you prove that you can be sustainable, things like that? And sure, lo and behold, I got an investor for my last company, and I blew it all up. And then with that company, I wasn't there. There's a lot of other elements I don't really want to go into that made that company pretty complicated on the team side. But regardless, it didn't work out. For this company, the second thing that I've learned is even if you can prove something, it doesn't matter if the investor doesn't trust you or doesn't know you. So I think building your network of investors, even before you need them, is pretty key. Because this is all a trust and network game, and there's some people that are like, oh, like we have to break that completely, we have to make it all cold. And I'm like, I think that's a horrible idea. I think we just should make it easier for people to build their network with the investors. I mean, warm intros are not the devil. Like, these exist in every industry in the world. If they're not going to go away. So how do you get more people access to these warm intros? And that's what we're doing.
So you mentioned, can you prove it? And you and I really haven't talked too much, but my last job, I spent 6 years in the Army. I was my last job was a war planner, and one thing that I have realized is there are a lot of ancient maxims, military maxims, like really the best one is from Mike Tyson. Everyone has a strategy until you get punched in the face.
Yep.
And so the idea is, I've seen a lot, even at the Venture Devils event with you, we saw a lot of companies that have all these business plans. But in my experience, though, those plans, those are based on a lot of assumptions. So I guess my question is, how do you prove something? Is there one or two things that are really essential that investors are looking for, or are different investors really just different? Some are looking for projections. Some are looking for, you're really, really competitive. No one can really take this away from us. Are any things that are really just essential that they're looking for, or is it really you just gotta have I don't want to say a perfect battle plan, but you got to have something that looks really, really solid for the next year or two?
I don't really know, to be honest. Every investor is different, and what they say they like to invest in is different from what they actually invest in and their behavior. What I can say is that, thinking about Venture Devils is like, I don't know, I can't. 99% of those founders, based on what I saw, don't have like the gene to actually raise venture. And the gene to raise venture is you need to have a really good understanding of risk, and then be able to like bend risk to get things, and kind of like you almost use it like a weapon in some sense, as a tool. And I think that understanding risk in the relation to raising capital is really important. Like for me, where we're at now, obviously I won't share any specific numbers, but we made a huge investment with the Phoenix Suns, with the suite, right? And, that was very risky, but weighing the pros and cons and like what I know about business, it actually like isn't that, like, although it's risky, it's actually like not, but like doing that actually gives us a huge leg up and gets us closer to our vision. So I would say, it's not really answering your question, but to answer your question is, don't really think about what investors are looking for. The best investors are looking to invest in founders that do it their way, and they're do it the best in their own way. And I learned this from my first investor in this company, Eric Reese. Eric was my first company my first investor was Seedscout. And for the whole time, for the first year or so, I was very self-conscious around, are we doing this the way we're supposed to be doing it? Like, should we do a fund? And there was a point where it's like, dude, like, you're just different, and you're either going to own it or you're going to die not owning it. So you just got to like own it. And those weren't exactly his words, but it's pretty much, the message, like, own who you are. And ever since then, I've pretty much done that. And I think that's my advice for founders, man. Like, own who you are. And then I guess the last thing I would say, and this is, going to be kind of some people might not like this, but like, chances are you like might not be a good enough founder to raise venture. Like I have the skill set. I can sell, I can market, I can build, I can recruit, which allows me to get a lot done just solo, and allows me to get a lot done with a small team. Doing that has allowed us to get to a lot of MRR, build a product, get thousands of people in Seedscout with only raising $400,000. That's impressive, right? Like, to an investor, like, wow, like that's impressive, right? If you need an investor so you can build your app, like, it's just like, it's just not gonna get someone excited.
No, it's funny going back to when you said about the risk. I know a guy who he's got his own podcast, and it's beautiful. He spent $100,000 on, I think, 15 episodes total. And he was talking to me, he's like, he was so mad. He's like, wow, God, why did I waste my money? I'm like, waste your money. You just got a damn business deal that's worth several million because of that damn podcast. That wasn't a risk. It was totally worth it.
Yeah. It's just, no risk, no reward. And you also have to understand why you're doing things. I guess one other thing, this wasn't really your question, but what I've learned is like, no one else is in my head, only I'm in my head. So so I have all the context that I need to make decisions. And sometimes an investor or person may not understand a decision that I make, but they don't have all the context. So that's where trust comes in. And that's why, again, going back to trust, like the investors need to trust you. Like my investors trust me. They might think I'm kind of crazy, but you kind of have to be crazy. I'm trying to build the next LinkedIn from Phoenix, Arizona, having no tech background, ASU grad, and I'm competing against people that are funded by the best of the best. Like you kind of have to be crazy to do this,
Yeah.
By the way, you kind of have to be crazy to be like going back to venture debt roles. Like you have to be crazy in the right way, like crazy and competent. You have to be crazy. And then you got to, crazy, huge vision. Then you need to be able to open your computer and like actually build it. And I think that's a duo.
Totally. You said something that I heard this some years ago from some venture capital, because one thing that I do in my business is I work with executive teams. I help them devise their strategy. And for the audience here, this is not some magical strategy. It's basically, what the hell do you want to do? Reduce to its essential and getting everyone in the room to understand and to come together. But one of the things I heard once from some VCs from Menlo was, I guess traditionally, a lot of venture capitalists they're looking at the business. They're looking at the business plan and the business. And they say, we're looking at the racehorse. But some VCs have started to say, you know what? It's time to look at the jockey as well. The management, I like this company, but even the people, you said you got to trust them. I wonder, in your experience, is that, and I'm not just talking about a founder, but have you noticed that, is that really important? You got a company and they've gone from zero to a couple million, but their management, these guys, they're probably costing the company money. Is that an element that you think should be considered?
It should definitely be considered, but to be honest, it really just comes down to the founder or founding team. As long as the founder has the right, genetics for that actual company, they'll, and they have the right guidance from the investors. If you got a bad management in there, they'll just fire them, bring in someone new. If the founder doesn't have the ability to grow a company, then that's an issue. Now, what I'll say is, like, you don't need to be, at least to start, the best manager as a founder. You don't. You need to have a lot of different skill sets, and over time you need to become a good manager. But like for me, at my stage with Seedscout, I'm just like trying to get this off the ground and trying to just trying to get it off the ground. I don't need, I got one employee. He's like very, very, very smart and like self-sufficient. Obviously we talk all the time, but like, I wouldn't say I'm a good manager. But like, there's a point where once we're at a few million, I either become a good manager or I hire good managers, or I get a COO, but like the founder is not going to have it all, but the buck does stop with the founders. And if you have multiple founders, the CEO.
Sure. No, I totally,
and by the way, I do think that like it's way more important than evaluating the actual company. Like I think like the team, that people over assets, 100% of the time.
I can't say the name of the company, but I worked with a company once who worked with VCs, and they ultimately went public. And I remember working with the founders, and then they brought the second generation in. And oh boy, these are guys and gals with the pedigrees who did not have the sweat, blood, and tears going through that founding. Yep. What a different mindset. What different priorities.
Yeah. No, it's a lot to say on that. It's just there's these days it's very cool to be a founder. And if you go to a very prestigious school, you can pretty much get $2 million from anybody. And it's just funny. Like I've literally been working my complete ass off, every day for 8 years, and I've raised, $500,000 in my career. I'm not complaining, I'm not here complaining, but it's just kind of funny. Like it kind of makes me laugh. I'm not gonna lie. Like these kids have no idea. what, like, they just have no idea, but it's okay. Like, one day they'll figure it out, or maybe I'm wrong and they do have an idea, and like, I have to learn, you never know which one it is.
I guess never half-ass it, people. Always whole-ass it. That's the secret.
It's just like, there's like, the standard Silicon Valley or the standard monoculture founder is just like, oh, I deserve funding because of my network. Then you get the funding, then you just build a really bloated company, and then like a year or two later, you do layoffs because you like realize you spent too much. You're like, oh, I made a mistake. Oh, I'm just like, it's just like, you do you, man. Like, I don't know. It's just not my style.
I tell you, in my experience, I've noticed, I've worked with some founders who are about control. They got to control the process. They got to control the big picture. But I've also noticed there's a difference. So when I work with founders who use other people's money, they're a little bit more flexible. But when you work with a founder with a family business, good Lord, I'm telling you, the ability to delegate, their span of control becomes so short, so close that I've literally seen certain executives like literally, I don't know what you say, isolate themselves with one or two people, and despite the executive team being there, they have to control everything. They have to. I don't know. I know that just came out, but I was just thinking about terms of
yeah. Well, I mean, you do have to like control the vision and the direction of the company. And like like when you get a little bigger, I don't know this from experience, but I kind of do. I mean, I worked at Prenda, which was like, it was like 30 people, for me, that's big, the biggest company I ever worked for. But there's a point where like, being the CEO, of a larger company is like pretty lonely, because like you pretty much make decisions that not everyone is ever going to be happy with. You're always going to have people that aren't happy with it. And as stakes go up, as more money comes in, there's like this tension between, early customers, early employees, early whatever, and like the new people without bringing the big bucks. And like you have to like find that balance of like all the stakeholders and shareholders and stuff. But the thing is, I've kind of trained my brain. I'm a pretty good loner. Like, I'm not a loner. I'm married. I have a great employee in Benny. I have friends. But the thing is, like, if I ever need to like flip a switch at any point and just be the person that no one likes, but the person that needs to exist, I can do that. Like, it's like I kind of have like trained myself by doing the startup thing for so long. So I think there's a time for kind of being the person that no one likes, but everyone respects.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so for the audience, so you're the guy from Phoenix, is creating this great organization, Seedscout. I'm really curious. Tell us about a typical day. Could you do this? Walk through, what does a typical day look like in the life of a disruptor?
Typical day. There's like no typical day. This is like this tell you about my management style. Like, sometimes I make a list the night before of what I want to do, and then I do it the next day, but like that doesn't take all day. I just do whatever I feel like. Within the scope, generally like Seedscout is so early where my attention gets pulled to different parts of the company when I think it's important. And right now we're still kind of like maneuvering the cannon. Like we've only raised $400,000 for this company. We only have 2 full-time employees, myself included. So it's like, I kind of spend all my day like, where do I want to point the cannon? And then once I feel comfortable within a good direction, pour fuel on it. More specifically, though, to answer like questions specifically, I'll do sales emails. I'll trigger introductions for our customers. I'll work on our suite strategy, which I can talk about Phoenix, but I can't share about any other locations yet. But we have like this distribution suite strategy that we're doing. I'll talk to Benny about direction. I'll think a lot. I probably think at least 2 hours a day. I don't even do anything. I just like think about the direction of Seedscout. Like, I could decide that we're doing one thing one day. Like, that means literally if we go in that direction, extrapolate out, that's the company that things look that it looks like. But then I can change my mind the next day and like move the cannon. And then like, that's the company and it's completely different. Right. And I'll give you an example. There's a trip that I'm supposed to be doing in the next couple of days or, next couple of weeks that does not completely support the strategy that I decided as of this morning for Seedscout. That strategy being, I want to focus on revenue and sales versus fundraising. But like a few days ago, I did think I wanted to focus on fundraising and sales. So this trip does make sense. So I'm just like going back and forth, with this canon. And then once I kind of make a decision, I'll do what I want. I'll do what I do. So I spent a lot of time thinking, and some people might think that's a waste of time. I completely disagree. Thinking is the most important thing that I do, and it's the most important thing I'll ever do. I do think my brain is, I think I have an interesting set of experiences and neurological makeup that makes my brain like an interesting thing. Just like anyone's brain is interesting, but like I think mine's interesting too. And I think flexing it to as much to its highest capability is pretty much like the best I can do for the organization.
I got to tell you, what you said is really profound, because I got to tell you about my experience, especially in the Army. And then one of the reasons I hated the Army, I hated it. You probably heard, hurry up and wait. That was really the experience of the Army. Yeah. But, if you weren't, we used to have a saying, in real life, you train to standard, not to time. If I get this job done in 2 hours, I don't have to be here for 10. Yeah. That's not the Army. The Army is opposite. You need to be there. And what you say about, maybe it's sitting in your office, maybe it's walk around thinking, maybe it's just doing whatever. Yeah. There are people out there who are so terrified of the perception that they're not busy. They could never do that. But you're absolutely right. Sometimes, in my world, I have my own small business. I am my own small business. But if there's a day I wake up and I'm like, you know what? I'm taking the day off. I'm going to watch TV. Yep. I'm going to veg and watch Netflix. That is fine, because what's happening is, as I watch and relax, you know what I'm doing? I'm thinking about my next projects. I'm trying not to, but it's happening. But it is incredibly, incredibly important. So for the audience here, you do not have to, if you want to write a book, if you want to create a company, you don't have to spend 10 hours every day doing it. Focus. Think about it. Do it right the first time if you can. Right?
Yeah, totally. No, 100%. And there's also a thing where, like, if you're like the fine folks we were talking about 10 minutes ago, where you fresh out of grad, raised 2 million, you don't have time to think. Your clock has started. And I could, look, my first investor is Eric Ries. Like, I could totally raise a lot more money if I truly wanted to, but I only want to do that when I feel like the cannon is pointed in the right direction. And like, we're getting close. I'm not going to lie, like with what we've been doing recently, but like, I just like, I just, up to this point, I'm just like, I'd rather like, think than accelerate, because I want to make sure I'm accelerating in the right direction.
Oh, totally. Totally. Especially for the way you do. You have political, you might call political capital. I call it political capital. If you're going to ask, if you're going to go out and get the money, if you go out and get the resource investment, you're committed. So you better be damn sure that you said the cannon's the point the right way. Right. I'd say we're all on the highway, and we start honing our vision over time to the right area. So if you're going to pull the trigger on that, you better be damn sure that that's exactly where you want to go, because boy, if you don't do that, you really damage your reputation, especially in this city. This is what do you call it? A small, big town.
Right. That's funny. I haven't heard that, but I do agree. Yeah.
Okay. So I've asked about a typical day. Totally. I didn't even write this.
Sure.
What's a good book? What's a good book, business book? Actually, let me say this. Give me a good business book and a good non-business book that someone in your shoes should read.
Yeah, sure. So there's a book that no one's heard of called The Enlightened CEO, and it's the greatest business book in the history of the world. It's just like it's just like you read it and you're like, that's exactly what a CEO should. It's just like it talks about the soft skill. It doesn't even talk about hard skills. All it talks about is soft skills, but in a way that it just blew my mind. It's all like, they talk about self-awareness in the circle, and it's just like, I'm sure there's other books like it, but there's something about this book. It's funny because like no one's heard of it. I think it's the best book I've read, at least in business. So The Enlightened CEO. And then I haven't read this book, but if it existed, I would want to read. I know it exists. I just need to like get it off Amazon. I've recently taken a liking to arenas and stadiums. I just got a tour of SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles. which is the new LA Rams and LA Chargers stadium. I've gotten a tour of the Arizona Cardinals stadium. I mean, we got a suite and footprint. I'm getting tours of some other NBA arenas, and I'm just like, it's interesting. It's interesting how like footprint arena is such a big deal in Phoenix, but then I look up, NBA's arenas, and there's 30 other ones I just don't care about, but like they don't care about footprint, right? It's just like this, like it's just like interesting. And I feel like one day I want to get like either little like I don't know like gold like little things I can like like I could like collect of each arena or stadium we have like real estate in.
Yeah.
So I think these are like pretty underrated event venues. Everyone's talking about like scaling community. I'm just like, the answer is like pretty obvious. Not gonna lie. It's just expensive.
I wonder do you think one of the reasons why you like that is you're seeing that is a big, complicated piece of architecture, and it has a purpose, it has design, it has so many facets to it. It's kind of like what you're doing. You really are the CEO, you're the chief everything officer. I really wonder if that kind of complexity draws you in.
Yeah, for me, I like kind of watching how people interact like in the arenas in different areas. Like we're pretty much building a consumer company, and I didn't really set off to build a consumer company, but I just kind of think about my skill set, my writings, my like observations on things. And I'm just like, I'm pretty well suited to like build a consumer company, to be honest, based on like what I'm just interested in. So no, like, I mean, even when we had these like club seats, like a few months ago, I was like watching how my friends were reacting and what they were saying. And like, it took 2 events for me to realize that we needed like a nicer area. We needed a suite to accomplish what we needed to accomplish. And although we could have stuck with what we had, I already had the answer after just watching, some of my friends interact with, kind of that experience. And I like, what's the difference in going to a suite versus going to a club versus going to a nosebleed versus going to, going to courtside? Like what's a nicer experience, courtside or suite, and these are like questions like you're probably, oh my God, like it's like posh questions, and like they are, but it's interesting because I operate in like a high status. I'm a low status person operating in a high status world, and I have to like understand this stuff to really like actually like talk to these people, and like play on their level.
Oh, look at you adapting. I love it. So
yeah.
who are you looking for in your ecosystem? Yeah, because I by the way, if you haven't checked out the audience, go to YouTube. Is it the Seedscout podcast? Because you have 400 videos on there.
Got lots of videos on YouTube. I've actually changed the name. I changed the name of the podcast like a week ago. I might change it back. It's called Modern Professionals now. But yeah, I've interviewed 800 people or so. We have lots of videos on YouTube. And like who we're trying to get in the ecosystem, it's anyone, any founder, investor, job seeker, service provider. Just go to seedscout.com. You can like fill out this form and you join. And then if you want to become a pro member and request interest or get an intro request to other people in the ecosystem, you can pay. And if you're in Phoenix, you get access to our suite here. And if you're not, maybe there's a suite coming to you soon. We'll see.
I love it, man. I love it. Okay. So where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Matt_Sherman. My name has 1 T in it. I'm pretty rowdy. I'm not going to lie, but I got about half a Footprint Arena worth following me on there, 11,000 people. So it works, yeah, at least for some demographic. You can find me on LinkedIn too, Matt Sherman. Yeah, just find me, in the suite. Like if you want to hang out with me, you want to like pick my brain, like don't ask to pick my brain, just sign up for pro and then like hang out with me in a suite. Like, it doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be hard. You have to you kind of have to just prove that you're serious about what you're doing, or that you're competent. You can be serious but not competent. When you charge, you're serious and competent because you're able to pay and you pay. So it's just like it's like this two birds with one stone type of thing.
Yeah, I love it. What have I not asked you that I should? What would the audience really like to hear?
What have you not asked me? I don't know. I mean, I just think that there's I drank the Silicon Valley Kool-Aid super deep for like a long time. Like, I mean, since 2014, I feel like I stopped drinking it like 2 months ago, maybe even a month ago, kind of recently. And I'm kind of, speaking of that book, Enlightened CEO, I feel like kind of enlightened because you kind of like open your eyes and you're just like, wow, like that whole ecosystem is a whole Ponzi scheme that's legal. holy smokes, like these people aren't even that smart. Oh, they're not even that smart. That means I can compete with them. And I think that if more people did that in their own industries, they'd be better off. Like a lot of people think, oh, I can't compete with blank. Oh my gosh, like I want to become, I don't know, what's an example? I want to be a politician, but my governor is so powerful. Whatever. But usually like most people aren't as good as you think they are. They just got help along the way. I sure as hell got help along the way. I hope that in 20 years, some kids looking at me being like, that's a chump. Like I want to compete. I'm like, bring it on, kid. Like that's like, that's how it should go. But yeah, just like all these legends, like they're just legends, but that's it. Like I've gotten close to Jason Calacanis, close to Eric Rees. They're just people, just like you and me, that's really it.
I totally agree. I totally agree. I've actually become weary. What's the old saying? Never meet your heroes.
Yes, I do. I subscribe to that.
I've become weary, but I got to tell you, there's one guy. I've had one guest on this. Well, not one, but there's one man who he is as sharp as you come by. It's Colonel Douglas Macgregor, probably next Secretary of Defense. That guy is sharp, very sharp. So, but everybody else, well, if that's your one, no, I had great guests.
Yeah.
But I hear what you're saying. Yes.
I feel the same. One person who I wouldn't put in that category is actually Eric Rees. Eric is like the most, I think he's going to be like one of those influential people, in our society within 20 years. He's a different breed, and it's hard to explain. He's just a different breed, and he's just a leader amongst leaders. And, it's not obvious yet because all people know him for is the lean startup. And now he started the long-term stock exchange. But I just have a feeling that he's just going to like run the world. He's just like, and he should, because he is he's like the right person. If someone's going to run the world, like I would be cool if it's Eric, because he's just like his morals and ethics and how he thinks about the world and changing, and what he's done with LTSE is just nothing short of phenomenal.
I love it. Matt with one T.
That's right.
That's right. Matt with one T. Matt Sherman from Seedscout. Man, thank you so much. This has been a great conversation, and I will put all your bio information in the description,
cool,
so people can reach out to you. And thanks for being a guest on this. I've had a lot of fun.
Yeah, I've had fun too. Thanks for having me on. I liked your questions. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Thank you. All right, everyone. You got it. Matt with one T, Mr. Matt Sherman. Check him out. Make sure you check him out and follow him on LinkedIn. Matt, you put some great stuff on LinkedIn. It's always impressive. I'm like, every time I see what you put out, I'm like, man, this dude he's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So, all right. Thank you, everyone. And I'll see you for the next episode. If you like this content and want to hear other things like it, head on over to the website at blackmarketleadership.com. That's blackmarketleadership.com. There you can subscribe to the podcast, and you can even create a free members profile